Hello and welcome to Crazy Math Productions. Today we're going to be looking at solving with the quadratic formula. Now this looks a bit odd. It's a very large formula. If A, that's the leading coefficient, we have B is the linear coefficient, and then C is the constant. If you have those three, A, B, and C, in standard form here, notice equals 0, not Y. But if that's the case, then we can solve using negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And there's a nice way to remember it. You can just sing it to the tune of the Monkey Chase the Weasel. So, negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And it's an easy way to remember the quadratic formula. Now if you think in context, there's some different ways that we can solve. When there's no linear term, for example, if you had x squared plus 3 equals 0, if there's not a linear term, you would want to use solving by the square root method. If you have one that's easily factored, then you would want to solve it by factoring. And in the next lesson, we'll look at which ways you can use this called the discriminant to figure out if you can factor it or not. But the advantage of the quadratic formula is that it will work. Whether you can factor it or not, it will work. The only time that it will not work is if this in the radicand is negative. Otherwise, it will work. So, here we go. What are the solutions of the equation x squared minus 8 equals 2x? Now you notice it's not in the form ax plus bx plus c equals 0. So we're going to have to put it into that form. So I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. We have x squared minus 2x minus 8 equals 0. So we have a very clearly defined a, b, and c. And we're going to plug it into the equation. Remember, negative b plus or minus the square root of b in parentheses squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And so it looks a little interesting there, but we're going to go ahead and work it out. So the opposite of negative 2 is positive 2. Plus or minus the square root of. Negative 2 times negative 2 is 4. Negative 4 times negative 8 is a positive, and that's a 32. All over 2a. 2 times 1 is 2. So x equals 2 plus or minus the square root of 36 over 2. X equals, the square root of 36 is 6, so 2 plus or minus 6 divided by 2. And you have to split this into two scenarios. So x equals 2 plus 6 divided by 2, or x equals 2 minus 6 divided by 2. So x equals 2 plus 6 is 8, or x equals 2 minus 6, that's negative 4 divided by 2. So x equals 4, or x equals negative 2. And of course, you could check to make sure that it works by plugging it in. 4 squared is 8 equals 2 times 4. Let's see if that works. That's 4 times 4 is 16 minus 8. 2 times 4 is 8. 8 equals 8. So that first one works. And now we can check the other one. Plug in negative 2, so negative 2 squared minus 8 equals 2 times negative 2. That's 4 minus 8 equals negative 4. 4 minus 8 is negative 4. So that does work. So both of these are solutions, and we can verify that. Now what are the solutions of this equation? Again, we're going to go through the same process. Here it is in standard form, so we have a clearly defined a, b, and c. So x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 4ac all over 2a. And we have 5 squared is 25, minus 4 times 2, 8, times 3 is 24, 2 times 2 is 4. So x equals negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 1 divided by 4. The square root of 1 is 1. So we have two different cases. Either x equals negative 5 plus 1 divided by 4, or x equals negative 5 minus 1 divided by 4. Negative 5 plus 1 is negative 4. Negative 5 minus 1 is negative 6 divided by 4. X equals negative 1, or this is 3 halves, negative 3 halves, which is negative 1.5. So x equals negative 1, or x equals negative 1 and 1/2. And one more. This is not in standard form, so we'll subtract 10 from both sides. 3p squared plus 4p minus 10 equals 0. This is A, B, and C. So x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So x equals negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 16. Negative times negative is a positive. 12 times 10 is 120. And this is 6. So x equals negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 136 divided by 6. Now at this point you have two options, and you have to look carefully at the directions. The directions will either say to put it in reduced radical form or to put it in a decimal form, maybe to the nearest hundredth. In this case it doesn't say, so we're going to look at both. Here I'm going to look at the square root, 136. So 136, well, let's see, 136 is 2 times 68. 12, 16, yes. 68 is 2 times 34, and 34 is 2 times 17. So this is x equals negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 2 times 2 times 2 times 17. And divided by 6. Now here's the thing, for when we have a square root, we're looking at every two roots that you see, or every two factors that you see, you can pull one out. Really the square root is to the 1/2 power. So we see two of the same factor, when we break these down into a prime factor, and we can pull one of them out. So that is, pardon me, pull the 2 outside, and then leave the 2 times 17 inside. Now I know 2 times 17, I can't break that down anymore. So 2 times 17 is 34 divided by 6. Now what you have to be careful of is this. If I can look and see that these three numbers, if those can be reduced at all, if there's something goes into 4, 2, and 6 other than 1, then I have to reduce this. So as strange as that sounds, we're going to go ahead and say this is 2 goes into all of these. So negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2, plus or minus. 2 divided by 2 is 1, so really I don't even need to write that. And then 6 divided by 2 is 3. So this is going to be reduced radical form, and you would just leave it right there as it is. But there's also another way that we can do that, and we can go through with the calculator. So we're going to pull up the calculator. Okay, we have our calculator. Now we're going to take the square root of 34, 34, and then square root. We have the square root, so you start there. Then you're going to add -2. Adding -2 is like subtracting 2, so -2. And then we're going to divide that by 3. So this is my answer here at the end. I'll round to the nearest hundredth, so 1 28 hundredths. Or, you notice that time I added -2. This time I'm going to subtract it. So again, start with the square root. So square root of 34. Then we're going to subtract a -2. Subtracting a -2 is like adding a +2. So plus 2. And then, last but not least, divide by 3. So 2 61 hundredths. So that is how to put it in either. This is reduced radical form. And this is in decimal form. And of course that makes sense because this is a radical and this is a decimal. That'll do it for today. Have a great day.